Uber drivers, what was the creepiest passenger experience you've ever had? I'm an Uber driver, and one of my passengers invited me into their home. I've seen a lot of things as an Uber driver, questionable things. I thought that having a foot job while driving was the worst, but after what happened today, I think I'll be quitting for good. I have 2 kids that I need to take care of since their father, Demetrius, went to go grab milk at the store for a good 7 years now. I work as a teacher during the day and would drive for Uber as soon as the school day ended. I try to accept as many rides as I can for as long as I can. I wish I never accepted that last ride. It was around 10 p.m. when I got the notification for a booking. The drop-off location struck me as odd, but I didn't think much of it at the time. A tall, slender woman settled herself in the back seat. She was gorgeous, short brown hair, impossibly perfect bone structure, and the brightest green eyes I'd ever seen on a human being. She looked to be in her mid-20s. I greeted the woman as she entered the car. "Good evening, Lauren, right?" "Yes." "And you, dear?" "Yasmin." "Yes." She asked me in a tone that sounded far beyond her years. "I'm sorry, your name, dear?" My passengers rarely asked me for my name. "Yes, nice to meet you." "Likewise, Yasmin," she responded. She a few times during the ride and asked me about my life. Then she asked me about my kids. I was starting to get a strange feeling about Lauren. It was odd to me that she was asking me about my kids in the way that she was. My passengers didn't normally converse with me, and when they did, they would mostly talk about themselves. Then again, I could have just been overthinking. I had to take a really massive shit. There was no way I could hold it until I got back to the city. As much as Lauren creeped me out, I couldn't just shit my pants. So I swallowed up all my courage, like come and asked her, Lauren, this might be an extremely unusual request, but would it be alright if I used your restroom?" "Of course, dear, that would be no problem at all," she replied. I was looking at her through the rearview mirror and thought I saw her right eye twitch. Must have been my imagination. We'd arrived at a seemingly average suburban house. "Thank you for the ride, Yasmin. Shall we?" Lauren asked me as she exited the car. I followed suit and accompanied her to the front door. "We're actually having a small get-together at the moment," she said to me, and spun around to ring the doorbell before I could respond. A young woman had answered the door, again, very attractive. Man, what do these people eat? She had similar features to Lauren, which lead me to believe they were sisters. They had the same brown hair and green eyes. "Oh, hello," the young woman greeted us. "Rose, this is Yasmin. She's here to use our restroom," Lauren explained. "Yasmin, this is Rose, my younger sister. Nice to meet you. Sorry for the intrusion," I apologized. "No apologies necessary, dear. Come, let me show you the way," Rose said as she took my hand and led me inside. "We're actually having a small get-together at the moment." That was eerie. The way they spoke was nearly identical. Rose even said the exact same thing Lauren did, and the way Rose called me dear when I was probably a decade older than her. When we went through the dining room, I saw their small get-together. There were at least 10 other people in the dining room. They all had the same brown hair and bright green eyes. Even if they were all related, it was strange how even the shade of brown and green remained consistent. I felt a chill run down my spine. The way they were all just sitting there, staring at the food in front of them. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when we exited the dining room, partly because what the fuck, and how I was seriously about to shit myself. "Here we are. Please let me know if you require any further assistance. I'll be in the dining room," Rose said as she walked away. "Thanks," I called after her. I shut the door and was finally able to relieve myself. I checked my phone to see if I received any messages from my cousin, Samantha. I pulled my pants back on after destroying the skibidi toilet with my nuclear shit. As I washed my hands, I noticed something off about the mirror. It seemed as if it was a part of the wall. That kind of made the alarms in my head go off. I read about this somewhere. I needed to confirm my suspicions, so I placed my finger on the mirror. There was no gap. It was a two-way mirror. I nearly jumped out of my skin when I heard a knock on the door. "Yasmin, is everything all right in there?" I heard Rose ask me from the other side of the door. Yeah, sorry, be out in a sec," I told her. I looked away so that my back was facing the mirror and shot Samantha a text message. I told her to call me if I didn't get to call her first within the next 15 minutes. I put my phone back in my pocket and walked out into the hallway where Rose was waiting. "We were wondering if you would like to join us." She smiled at me. It was unsettling, as if she was up to something. It was like I could almost see it in her eyes, something behind them that I couldn't explain. I felt conflicted, like I wanted to get the hell out of there, but I was also extremely curious. "No, I shouldn't. I have to get home. It's getting late," I replied. "It'll just be for a bit," she said, as she took my hand once again and led me toward the dining room. The only empty seats were beside Lauren, so I decided to sit next to her. Rose took the other empty seat beside me. "You're too kind, dear. Isn't she just lovely?" Everyone in the room nodded along and agreed with Lauren. Some of them even decided to throw in their own compliments. I was confused because my statement was fairly neutral. "You should eat, dear, lest the food gets cold," the man who sat across me suggested. I looked at the plate in front of me. It was a relatively normal meal: mashed potatoes, roast chicken, and some steamed vegetables. I looked at everyone else's plates and realized that they had been untouched. "What about you guys? Aren't you gonna eat too?" I asked hesitantly. "Yes, of course, but we believe the guest should do the honor of starting us off," another man stated. I took my fork and picked up a piece of chicken, but my phone rang, saved by the bell. "I'm sorry, let me just take this phone call. You guys can eat ahead," I said as I started to get up. "That won't be necessary, dear. We don't mind if you take the call here." Rose took my hand and gently pulled me to sit back down. "Right, okay," I muttered, then proceeded to answer Sam's phone call. "Samantha, what's wrong? Where are you? It's getting late." Me: "Hey Sam, I'm so sorry. I might be home later than expected. Do you think you could stay a bit longer?" "Yas, are you okay? You told me to call you in 15 minutes. "No, it's all right. Make sure you put the lasagna in the fridge." "Yasmin." I hung up the phone and looked around. Everyone stayed silent as they watched me with their emerald eyes. Lasagna in the fridge was our code for trouble. I silently prayed that she had gotten that. "You're such a good mother, Yasmin," Lauren remarked. Everybody else agreed and started fawning over me. "Thank you," was all I could say in return. turn, I took a bite of the unassuming mashed potatoes and was pleasantly surprised. It was just the way I liked it, creamy and buttery with a few chunks in each bite. Wow, this is great, I blurted out without meaning to. Of course, dear, this is Father's recipe. Everything he does is absolutely great, Rose said proudly. Yes, Father does no wrong, the man across me agreed. I decided to try the chicken next. I could see why they liked this Father guy so much. He had some really good recipes. Thank you so much for the lovely meal. I enjoyed it, but I really do have to get home to my kids now, I announced. I hope you still have room for dessert, Lauren said as she entered the dining room holding a covered round plate. I didn't even notice her leave the room. I must have really enjoyed that meal. There was a voice in my head that kept trying to remind me that I really needed to get home, to get to my kids, to get away from this place. But once Lauren revealed the cake, all I wanted to do was eat it, and that terrified me. That fear went away. As soon as I dug into my slice of cake, it was divine. I must have finished the whole thing in one bite. It was literally the perfect chocolatey cake. Each layer was moist, yet still retained its fluffiness, and the chocolate ganache was to die for. It's getting late, dear. Maybe you should stay the night, Rose suggested. No, I needed to get away from this place, and whatever the hell was going on here. I had to take my kids to school in the morning. Sam was waiting for me. She probably wanted to go home too. That sounds like an absolutely great idea, dear, I responded. I had no idea why I said that. Rose's smile turned sinister, as if all the grace and innocence had left her face, like she had a mask on the entire time and had finally revealed what was underneath. Her voice remained sweet when she said, I'm sure Father would think the same way as well. She led me to the guest bedroom and said goodnight to me, that she would see me in the morning, all the while having that menacing grin on her face. Once she shut the door, something snapped in me as if I had just woken up. I checked my phone and saw that I had a dozen messages and a few missed calls from Samantha. One of her messages stated that she called the police and that they were on their way. I sighed in relief. Everything was probably going to be fine. The Uber app had the info of where my last drop-off location was, and the cops were going to arrive any minute. I decided to have a look around the bedroom while waiting. Maybe there was something I could use as a weapon in case they tried anything before the police arrived. On the wall behind the bed, there was another large painting of the man they called Father. I still felt the same way about him when I saw the first painting. I was almost sad. This place was probably going to get busted and shut down or something. I looked at the wall across the bed, and there was a mirror that looked to be a part of the wall. Just as I was about to do the two-way mirror test again, I caught a glimpse of my reflection. What I saw made my blood run cold. My eyes, they were turning green.